You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com. Bitcoin, Ether, Ripple, Litecoin, and more. Cryptocurrencies and other digital assets are taking the financial world by storm. This exploding market provides everything a savvy trader needs: volatility, volume, and liquidity. Provided you know how to find it. That's where we come in. Welcome to the Crypto Rundown. Each week, we'll break down the latest trading activity, trends, and developments on everything from coins to tokens, futures, and even OTC options. If it's moving the crypto markets, then you'll find it on the Crypto Rundown. This program is brought to you by Genesis Volatility, also known as GVOL, home of institutional-grade crypto options analytics. Whether you're trading CeFi options or DeFi options, cryptocurrencies move. Use GVOL Analytics to analyze implied volatility, model realized volatility, structure positions, and unlock alpha. For more information, visit gvol.io. That's GVOL.io. Now it's time to dive into the exploding world of cryptocurrencies and digital assets. It's time for the Crypto Rundown.
All right, everybody. That music means we are back once again for the Crypto Rundown here on the Options Insider Radio Network, the program where we go beyond our traditional stomping grounds. I could talk about Apple or Tesla or VIX or SPY options here on the show. So I'm going to go a little bit farther afield. Check out Bitcoin, ETH, maybe some other top altcoin out there. Talk about the volume, the volatility, the SKEW, the OI, the size positions, and a whole bunch more. My name is Mark Longo from theoptionsinsider.com, as well as, of course, from the aforementioned network. Reminding you, of course, if you like what you hear, head on over theoptionsinsider.com/pro. That's the place to go right now to check out our Cyber Monday offer. Pretty much the only time you're going to get access to the full network on a discount. So if you're pinching your pennies these days, and we know some folks are out there, these are tough times for everybody. We want to make sure we help out when we can. So theoptionsinsider.com/pro. Check out those promo codes we have there. You can find those, of course, over there on Twitter at Options for discounts off the monthly and indeed some pretty ridiculous deals on the annual subscriptions over there. And of course, if you like what you hear, do keep rating and reviewing. And on your platform of choice, let us help all the new folks continue to discover the program. As we all discover what the hell's going on in Bitcoin, it is time for the Bitcoin Breakdown.
It's time to explore the latest trending activity, trends, and developments across the world's leading crypto market. It's time for the Bitcoin Breakdown.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Bitcoin Breakdown, the portion of the show we do just that. We break down all the action in the world's leading cryptocurrency. Yeah, we're talking about the big dog, which is Bitcoin, a little bit bigger this week than it was on the show last week. Last week, we kicked off the show. Bitcoin is right around 15,953 coming in to start of today's show, 16,225, so up about 271 handles over the course of the week. And, of course, it was a truncated holiday week out there in the U.S. this week. So a lot of people were away from their screens, so we would expect some thin markets out there. That's pretty much what we saw. So the range wasn't spectacular out there. A little over 1,000 points on the week, listeners. The low came right after our show last week on Tuesday. 15,629 was the low in Bitcoin. And the high came a day later, 16,739. So pretty much the entirety of that range we experienced over 24 hours. And then we've kind of been languishing in between for the rest of that period. And if we're languishing out there, you know what's going to happen to vol listeners. It's going to come in. That's pretty much what we saw on our last show, almost to 73, about 72, 75 coming into the start of this show. Bitcoin vol at a 61. Where did I find that, as well as a lot of the other analytics we're going to talk about on the show today? There's only one place to go. Genesis Volatility, also known as GVOL, GVOL.io, GVOL.io, the place to go to kick the tires and light the fires for all these analytics and a whole bunch more now that they are part of Amber Data. They're looking to really ramp up the offerings they have in store for you folks. Check it out if you're intrigued by these markets at all. And you're listening to a show like this, so I have to believe that you are. Then check it out. GVOL.io is the place to go. If you went there, you could see that average at the money volatility. You can also see what's going on from a SKEW perspective. Last show, things were still looking pretty dire, pretty firmly negative, about a negative 10.6. Coming into this show, still negative, but they have backed up to about a negative 5.4. So still negative, but not quite as dire as it was this time last week, which again is reflected in the price action we've been seeing out there as well. OI-wise, worth remembering, we have November pretty much rolling off the board as we speak, listeners. That is taking a lot of OI with it, and that is reflected in what's left over there on Deribit right now. There's 163,000 calls open on Deribit right now. It's down about 18,000 contracts from this time last week. The puts are at about 87,000 contracts, down about 13,000 from this time last week. And in terms of the size positions, whenever we have a month rolling off the board, it tends to shake up the OI a little bit. So let's see what's going on from a size positions perspective. Number 5 out there in Bitcoin, it is the 19,000 strike. That's got 10,300 contracts open. That's down about 2,800. So barely over 10,000 to stay in the top 5 right now, listeners. So intriguing. OI continuing to erode a little bit. Number 4, we have the 40,000 strike. So still looking pretty far out of the money there for number 4. 11,500 contracts open there. That is a newcomer to the top 5. Number 3, we have the 20,000 strike. So 11,600 contracts open there. And that is down about 4,200 contracts. That was formerly our number 1 position. Number 2, we have the 15,000 strike that has 12,800 contracts open. That's down about 1,500. And number 1, we have the 30,000 strike with 13,000 contracts open, down about 200 from this time last week. It's not a huge evolution there. In terms of Bitcoin options volume, also not really a huge evolution on that front as well. As I mentioned, it was a truncated holiday week for a lot of the major markets. So we expect light volume across the board, and that follows over to crypto as well. The busiest day we saw last week was the 17th, so Thursday, with about 36,000 contracts changing hands on Deribit. For comparison, the week before, the 58,000. The week before that, we saw 113,000. That was in the midst of the madness of FTX. That's also one of the busiest, if not the busiest days we've seen since we've been running this show. So take that with a bit of a grain of salt, but still 36,000, comparatively light. But again, it was a holiday week out there. Let's get on out to the CME crypto front and see what's going on. You can also find these reports for yourselves. Because we like you, head on over to cmegroup.com/TWIFO, TWIFO. That is the name of the show we do with CME every week, called This Week in Futures Options. That airs on Thursdays, 1:30 p.m. Central, 2:30 p.m. Eastern, if you're interested in checking it out. Of course, on demand, wherever you get this fine program, you can find TWIFO. If you go into that report that we provide for you for free there, listeners, then head on into the asset class drop-down, go down one slot to cryptocurrency, and you will see both Bitcoin and ETH, the big and the micro-size contracts up there. And you know what? It's starting off to be an active week out there in the big Bitcoin options. Again, these are contracts used to do about 20 contracts a week. 276 on the tape already today. So that's a heck of a lot of action, including 157 of the 19,000 calls in December going up today with nothing else, just straight up. There was no vertical, nothing else, just 157 of those. Also, the 12,000, 13,000 put vertical went up 25 times today, also in December. So you're talking over 200 contracts just in those 2 trades alone. So that used to be more than a week's worth of paper. Interesting. And in terms of last week, how much went up out there? Again, kind of a quiet holiday week. and nearly 1,000 contracts. That's actually a lot for last week and a lot in general for this product. So starting to see a little bit more action out here on the big Bitcoin options, including the 15,500, 18,000 put vertical in December went up 175 times on Monday, all that opening. So clearly a lot of new positioning there, 350 contracts total. That's a good chunk of what went up last week. Also saw 100 of the 13,000 puts going up on Friday and 50 of the 17,000 puts going up on Friday as well. So lots of action on that front. Also worth noting, we saw on Friday 100 of the 20,000 calls and 50 of the 17,000 calls going up. Maybe you have a bit of a strangle because 50 of the calls and 50 of the puts traded on Friday of the 17,000s. Maybe a bit of a straddle. Intriguing stuff out there. So a fair amount of action. Let's get on out to the micro products. You can also see those for yourselves out there. Listeners, just pop into the indexes micro and scroll down to the micro Bitcoin. This is a product that had a little bit of difficulty catching on out there, listeners. And that remains the case again out there right now with not a lot of paper lighting it up on the tape today or indeed last week. Not a ton for us to really sink our teeth into out here. Interesting. I'm not sure what it is that keeps these products from attracting a lot of attention. I've heard some complaints about the margins. That certainly could be one of them. But either way, these more bite-sized contracts, for whatever reason, not attracting your attention. What is attracting your attention out there these days, listeners, is BITO. When we kicked off the show, BITO was at about a 990. That's actually up about 20 cents on the week. So BITO looking a little bit more active out there. Speaking of activity, it's ADV right now, 112,000 contracts. So this is still a very active product, even with the quiet holiday week behind us. And again, already 87,000 contracts on the tape today. If you're wondering what are the top positions out there in BITO options, let's find out here. Let's go top 5 out here in BITO options. Number 5, we have the D's 12 calls, 23, almost 24,000 of those. Number 4, 27, almost 28,000 of the December 11 puts. Number 3, 38, almost 39,000 of the D's 15 calls. And then number 2 and 1, a lot of love on the 10 put strike. And number 2, we have 49, almost 50,000 of the D's 10 puts expiring at the end of the year. And then we have the monthly BITO D's puts expiring on the 16th with 100,000 of those. I know a lot of you were in for a while, riding a lot of puts on the 10 strike. Obviously, we broke through it. We are still through that. Have you been out there trading BITO? Let's see what's going on out there today. Yeah, the big dog today, 12,192 of the Jan 10 puts. So once again, that 10 put strike, listeners, clearly holds a lot of fascination for you out there. Have you been trading around it? Have you been using it to hedge? Have you been selling puts on the 10 strike or maybe another strike out there? Hit us up. Let us know. I've been telling you guys over the last few weeks that I've been intrigued by the 1x2 put spreads out there. Don't have any on right now, but it's an intriguing time. Again, the puts skew a little bit less this week than it has been over the last couple of weeks, but still a lot of intriguing action to be found. Are you trading BITO? Are you trading the CME products? Are you trading the options over there on Deribit for a lot of our international users? There's something else afoot out there you're trading. Hit us up. Let us know. We want to hear from you as we keep on rolling into the altcoin universe.
It's time to move beyond Bitcoin and find out what's moving the rest of the crypto marketplace. It's time to boldly venture into the altcoin universe.
All right, everybody, welcome to the altcoin universe, the portion of the show we explore all the action outside of the big dog, which is Bitcoin, except for right now, when we're going to break down the top 10 from a market cap perspective out there, listeners. And we've been watching this erosion of the top 10 for a while now, names falling out of the top 10. Some names, notably Doge, climbing the ranks out there. Let's see what's going on out there this week. Let's kick things off. Number 10 right now with about 7.1 billion worth of market cap. It's Polygon. Interesting. Polygon, again, cost you a little over 7 billion to break into the top 10 this week. Number 9, our old friend Cardano, hanging out at about 10.5 billion worth of market cap. So that's quite a jump from about 7.1 to 10.5 for number 9. Number 8, everyone's favorite whipping post, or perhaps you love it. It's Doge, hanging out about 12.6 billion worth of market cap. Number 7 is XRP, 19.3 billion. Number 8, Binance USD, 22.3 billion. Number 5, it's USD coin, 43, almost 44 billion. Number 4, BNB, 46.8 billion. Number 3, it's Tether, 65.3 billion. Numero due, it's ETH, 143 million. And number 1, looking a little bit more robust this week, is our old friend Bitcoin, 311 billion worth of market cap. Let's get out to the crypto that is, I know, number 1 for a lot of you out there. That is ETH, coming into the start of the show, looking a little bit stronger, a little bit more robust than it was this time last week, hanging out at 1169 when we kicked off the show, as opposed to on our last show, it was pretty much at exactly 1100. So decent amount of action to the upside here this week in all things ETH, up a whopping 69 handles. Let's look at the range, see how far we got to the upside and to the downside, listeners. And we dipped down to almost breaking the 1,000 level, 1,080 back on Tuesday of last week. And then we saw the high for the week coming in at about 1222. That was on Friday of last week. In terms of vol, we're seeing similar trajectory to what we saw out there in Bitcoin, which is mostly down. We're at about a little bit shy of 97 on the show last week, about 96.75. Coming in to start the show today, a 78. So still frothy, still fairly volatile, but below, almost 20 points below where we were this time last week. SKEW-wise, again, same story as Bitcoin. Negative, but not quite as pronounced as it was this time last week. Last week, negative 14.5. Coming in to start today's show, negative 6.75. So almost a negative 7. So SKEW still negative, but getting cut pretty much in half. In terms of OI, again, we're seeing a lot of contracts roll off the board with November. That is reflected in how much OI is left over there on Deribit right now. A little bit north of 3 million, about 3.06 million calls open on Deribit right now. It's down 410,000 from this time last week. So November taking a lot with it. Puts 783,000 contracts open. That's down 217,000 from this time last week. So we're still hanging out a little bit north, 4-1 calls over puts out there in ETH, even with all this OI rolling off the board. Speaking of OI, let's look at the size positions out here in ETH options. And it got quite the gamut here, listeners. Number 5, we have the 2,500 strike. So in and of itself, a very optimistic strike. That is a newcomer to the top 5 with 141,000 contracts open there. Followed by number 4, the 1,600 strike. That's pretty much the closest we're getting at the money right now, listeners. That's got 177,000 contracts remaining. That's down 32,000 from this time last week. Number 3, we have the 3,500 strike. That's got 278,000 contracts open there. That's down about 7,000. Number 2 is the 4,000 strike. That has about 330,000 contracts open. That is pretty much literally unched on the week. It's been hanging out for a while at 330,000. It makes sense. How much reason do you have to unwind or put on new positions on the 4,000 strike right now? So hanging out at 330,000 contracts, just eked out ever so slightly by the number 1 spot yet again this week, the 3,000 strike, with 336,000 contracts open. That is down 58,000. That's down a fair amount, but also remember, a lot of that was opened in the December expiration time frame, so it'll be interesting to see this time next month when December rolls off the board, what happens to the 3,000 strike. I have a feeling a lot of that's going to go the way of the dodo, but we'll see. Maybe they will roll or readjust. Either way, though, a lot of D's 3,000 still open and 336,000 total contracts open on the 3,000 strike right now. In terms of activity last week, again, a quiet holiday week, so not a ton of paper on the tape. The busiest day we saw last week was Wednesday with about 590,000 contracts on the tape. It's actually more than the week before, which had 454,000 for the busiest day. Of course, you go back a couple of weeks to all the FTX fiasco. We saw north of 1.2 million contracts changing hands. And the week before that, 797,000. So last week, actually decently active for an otherwise quiet holiday week, but nothing to write home about out there. Let's see what's going on in the CME products out there. And again, from an overall ETH options perspective, either the big dogs or even the micro There we go. Looks like the reports are on a little slow right now, but not a ton of paper on either front, really, to report about this week, unfortunately, or even let's pull up last week and see if we got some action. Yeah, we're looking like it looks like we have a little bit of a delay here on these reports. So not a ton of action on the CME, big ether, or the micro ether front to report this week. Instead, let's keep on rolling out to the rest of the altcoin universe. And normally, listeners, this is the portion of the show where I would toss it to Solana and I would say, okay, here we go. Let's talk a little bit of Solana. Of course, this has been a name that we've added to the show recently, and it's been a big driver of a lot of attention, a lot of action. We've been talking about the OI, the activity, the size positions, but we also, over the last couple of weeks, have come to see some chinks in the Solana armor. Namely, it was very closely linked to everything going on there with FTX, and there still are a lot of lingering concerns about Solana. So as a result, we're going to dial back the Solana love right now on the show. We'll keep an eye on it. If it starts to regain some confidence of the crypto ecosystem out there, if the price starts to improve, that's obviously hit the activity as well. The price has rallied from 1188 last week to 1334 this week, so up about $1.46. So a nice little run out there. But in terms of action, we have seen the activity falling off a cliff, the top positions falling off a cliff. A lot of people with legitimate questions about what's going on and what the future is and what the future holds for Solana. So we're going to keep our powder dry on Solana for right now. If things change, if there's an improvement in the price, an improvement in the activity, an improvement in the faith in the ecosystem out there, that we've distanced ourselves from all the skullduggery around FTX, then perhaps we will return to our Solana breakdowns. But for now, we'll keep an eye on it. We're not going to be diving in too deep here on the show because, quite frankly, there isn't a lot to parse. In terms of Ripple, our old friend XRP, getting a little bit of juice back this week, about 3 cents. It was 35.5 cents last week, 38.5 cents this week. Our old friend Doge also looking pretty robust, up nearly 2 cents. It was about 9.4 cents this week, 7.6 cents last week. Doge has been very much in the crosshairs of late, everything going on with Musk and Twitter. That has given a little bit of interest to folks out there on the Doge front again. So is it just a joke, or is there more teeth to it? A little bit more teeth this week, at least. Litecoin, 73.39. Nice pop for Litecoin. It was 61 3/4 last week, up 11.60 on the week. So quite a pop for Litecoin. Cardano, pretty much spinning its wheels. 30.5 cents last week, 30.5 cents this week. Pretty much unched on the week. Polkadot, same deal last show, 5.20 this week, 5.15. So pretty much unched down to nickel. And everyone's favorite friend, good old Shiba Inu, is pretty much looking the same as well. So unfortunately, no Shiba Lambos on the docket this week, but we do have some questions. So let's get to you folks now, a little bit of the old crypto questions.
You've got questions about crypto. Who doesn't? It's time to find out the answers to your crypto questions.
All right, everybody, welcome to the crypto questions. You guys can get at us, I should say, at Options, most of the major social media platforms. Questions at theoptionsinsider.com also works. Or, of course, for you pro folks, use up the member hotline there. Get your questions bumped to the top of the list. This week, we got Connor coming at us. Says, I thought this would be a fun data point for your to discuss on your crypto rundown program. Keep up the great content. He sent us a graph. It's like this is from the Journal. And it's a crypto graph entitled, When Did Retail Investors Download Their Crypto Apps? And it's an interesting way to look at how people got their exposure to crypto, not just from a time perspective, but from a where was Bitcoin when, I should say, first downloaded their crypto apps. I'm assuming this is initial downloads of Coinbase and apps like that. And it looks like, according to this, pretty much the lion's share of these new users have come in the post 20,000 periods. Obviously, they are down money right now. It looks like the largest chunk coming in, unfortunately for them, in the 55 to 60,000 range. Looks like there was a little bit north of 12.5, close to 13% of the users profiled on this graph came in that time frame. Close behind it, we have also about 12.5% coming in the 45,000 to 50,000 time frame. So intuit from that what you will, but people got into these apps when crypto was much higher, obviously. So they're obviously reading into that a lot of these folks are losing money right now. Obviously, there's a lot of different strategies you can employ, a lot of things you could do. But if you're the old school crypto hodler and you downloaded your app for the first time with Bitcoin somewhere north of 50,000, chances are you bought some Bitcoin or other crypto then, and you're probably underwater right now. Thankfully, in the north of 65,000, which was only a brief period, we have a small fraction of the people there. So the worst quote-unquote losers of the graph, only a small percentage. But still, this data is heavily skewed north of the 20,000 level. Although we did in the initial run-up between 5,000 and 10,000, looks like we had about a little north of 11% of the people there as well. So that's at least encouraging, people getting in around that level. Again, this is somewhat of a misleading data point because just because you downloaded the app for the first time doesn't mean you were diving into crypto then or anything else like that. It's just kind of a bit of an interesting relationship to infer here. And so check this out over there on the Wall Street Journal. This was part of their Daily Shot newsletter, I believe. So intriguing stuff there. Just an interesting data point. Thanks for sharing that, Connor. So unfortunately, if you're one of the many who first installed Coinbase or Kraken or whatever it is you use to trade crypto, and it was around those much higher levels, hopefully you're faring well and you've made some other trades to offset that. Maybe you pared down some of your exposure, waiting for these lower levels. Either way, hopefully you're not suffering too terribly because this graph could be a little bit dire if you look at it straight up. But intriguing stuff nonetheless. When did you first get into crypto? Where was Bitcoin approximately, listeners? We've had many guests and folks on the show who are very old school, got in back in the early Mt. Gox days, had to wire money from Western Union to go buy your Bitcoin for a few dollars or even fractions of a dollar back in the day, all the way up to the 60,000 level. Where were you on that spectrum, listeners? Hit us up. Let us know. We want to hear from you. All right, that's going to do it for this episode of the Crypto Rundown. Just the facts, ma'am, this week, listeners, in get the data, get on about your lives. If you want more action coming at you this week, listeners, we got you covered. We've got the advisors option coming on tomorrow. Matt and myself and special guests will break down all the action in the world of options from an advisor and asset manager perspective. Matt's also dabbled a lot in crypto over the years. I know he likes himself a little bit of Bitto now as well, so he's an interesting one to listen to on that front as well. So check out the advisors option tomorrow. It'll be hitting the network on demand sometime later this week. Wednesday, of course, we'll have our double dose of education, which is very important for a lot of listeners of this show. Options Bootcamp, Options Playbook Radio. Also for our pro listeners, a Q&A with the one and only flow master himself, Mr. Henry Schwartz from Trade Alert, breaking down all the action, all the flow, all the madness he's seen out there in the options market since the last time he's joined us. It will be a very interesting one. If you want a discount on that Q&A and every other one we've ever done, every other one we will do, theoptionsinsider.com/pro is the place to go right now to get access to that Cyber Monday discount. And then back with the rest of our shows, including TWIFO, This Week in Futures Options, another intriguing one for a lot of you on Thursday. We touch on crypto there, obviously, as well. Friday, volatility views, and for all you pro folks, options oddities. Then back again next Monday, another episode of the Crypto Rundown. Stay safe out there, everybody.
This program is brought to you by Genesis Volatility, also known as GVOL, home of institutional-grade crypto options analytics. Whether you're trading CeFi options or DeFi options, cryptocurrencies move. Use GVOL Analytics to analyze implied volatility, model realized volatility, structure positions, and unlock alpha. For more information, visit gvol.io. That's GVOL.io. You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions@theoptionsinsider.com.